Every year, millions of tourists head to New Zealand for our long stretches of beautiful, peaceful beaches. This is what a New Zealand beach is supposed to be used for. Kids out there enjoying the waves despite the weather. But if I turn the camera around, you're going to find behind me a protest. Our beaches, our sand, are being threatened. We don't like that. Hi, I'm Justine, the nerdy half, and in this video I'm going to walk you step by step through this no sand mining protest at Ruakaka beach. And as I do, I'm going to explain a bit of New Zealand's history that shows why we protest the way we do. Because protests here follow patterns shaped by special moments in our past, from cutting down flagpoles to land marches to flower bombs. We protest in our own unique way. Now, I'm not saying protesting is like a national sport or anything, but every now and again we do feel like we need to have our say. So as we march today, I'm going to talk you through what travellers should expect if they happen to find themselves in the middle of one.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
Before we join the protest, let me explain what's actually being proposed here. New Zealand is very proud of its clean green image, but at the moment we're struggling with big business that want to use our natural resources for industry. Locals have gathered here at Ruakaka beach to oppose plans to mine millions of cubic metres of sand from the seabed just offshore. The proposal will see the sand mined for 35 years, and this is all going to be used for industry, construction, the making of concrete. Now, I've seen firsthand in countries like Vietnam what can happen to the environment when sand mining takes place. So I'm a little bit concerned about the fast-tracking process. The amount of public input is considerably lower than what it would normally be. So that's why I'm here today. And that's why a whole community have gathered on the beach. Kids, grandparents, every man and his dog, so to speak. But this is a Kiwi protest, and we do it New Zealand style. So first we're being welcomed on with a mihi, a karakia. Powhiri is a traditional Māori welcome ceremony. So you'll hear mihi, which is introductions, whai kōrero, speeches, and karakia, prayers. And there'll always be song and hongi, that's the nose press, and food. This is how the people of the land welcome their guests and make sure that their connection is safe physically and spiritually. Now, as a visitor, you're not going to know the full protocol. That's fine. You won't be expected to, but you will be welcomed to follow along and just join in quietly, respectfully. Because once you've been welcomed to a place in this way, then you are connected to it forever. While you're listening to the Powhiri, which is likely to be bilingual, take a good look around. Anything you notice? Did you notice there weren't any police? It's not that I didn't film them, they just weren't there. To be honest, I didn't even notice they weren't there because I hadn't been expecting them in the first place. But having lived overseas, I could see why you might think that no police presence at a protest would be slightly unusual. But before you get the idea that we're the most peaceful protesters in the world, let me fill you in on some times when the riot police were there, out in force. To understand why protests here usually feel so relaxed today, you actually have to look back to one of the most intense moments in New Zealand's protest history. Travellers to New Zealand in 1981 arrived in Auckland, tickets in hand for what was to be the rugby match of a lifetime. The New Zealand All Blacks versus the South African Springbok. What they weren't expecting were barricades and riot police in helmets swinging batons like it was a war zone. Over 56 days, 150,000 protesters took to the streets in over 200 demonstrations against apartheid, while rugby fans, many of them tourists, dodged chaos. Tourists could quickly see that New Zealand was split down the middle. The pro-tour side said, sports and politics don't mix, just let them play. South Africa will soon see how great multiracial harmony is. when we beat them. Meanwhile, the anti-tour side argued playing apartheid sports just normalises racism, and we want no part of that. We are a multicultural society and our own Indigenous rights are still contested, so why would we show support for countries with apartheid? But the tour went ahead. Only one game was cancelled. That was the game in Hamilton, when 400 anti-tour protesters linked arms during the kick-off. But my personal favourite was the final test at Eden Park, when two heroes rented a Cessna, buzzed to the stadium and dumped flower bombs right in the pitch. But it didn't stop the game, and in case you were wondering, the All Blacks won 25-22. Outside it wasn't so much fun. Rocks were thrown, police got involved, it turned into a bit of a riot and people were seriously injured. In the end, 1,500 people were arrested. It's the biggest police operation in New Zealand of its time. And it hit the global headlines, and most New Zealanders were proud to show our fight against apartheid and highlight some of the inequality we were still struggling with at home. After the tour, no official sporting activity took place between New Zealand and South Africa until the 1990s, after apartheid was abolished. That period changed the way New Zealanders think about protest, and it's one of the reasons why today at Ruakaka we're starting things off very differently. Now that we've been welcomed to the land, we need to learn our chants. Some will be in English and some in Te Reo Māori, the Indigenous language of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Toi tu te moana. Don't worry if you don't fully understand, just try and follow along. The locals will really appreciate your trying. So we've made it down to the beach. There's a few people here now, and that's the mayor speaking, giving his thoughts on this whole process. And there's still people streaming down behind me. It's a small group by city standards, but per capita, Kiwis punch above our weight, with studies showing New Zealand consistently has some of the highest protest turnout rates globally, especially when there are local issues like the beach at stake. As with any good protest, we've brought along some signs. Some of them are professional, some of them homemade, and some of them showing off our Kiwi ingenuity. You'll also spot flags, probably at least 3 different types of flags. Those aren't just decoration. Since the beginning, flags have been part of the way we protest, and it all started with one of our most infamous protesters, Hone Heke. In 1833, New Zealand was in its colonial infancy, which is just really a fancy way of saying the white folk weren't obeying any laws. With the Indigenous Māori trying to struggle with sailors, whalers and ex-convicts from Australia, things were getting pretty messy. The Brits sent a man to sort it out. His name was James Busby, and he decided one of the ways to bring everyone together was to make a flag. He gathered the chiefs of some of the major tribes around him, and together they voted for the design that would bring them together in unity. The design, a red St. George's cross on white with blue canton and 4 white stars, became our national flag, te kara, or the colours. Busby declared it New Zealand's first national act, and it was recognised by King William IV. But he must have got the 7-year itch, because by 1840 he ditched it and decided that we were going to have the Union Jack. Now this didn't go down well with the Māori chiefs, because that wasn't the flag they were going for, and where was the unity in the Union Jack that is all about Britain? And this wasn't the only promise that the Brits had broken, so there was already a fair bit of Māori resentment. Hone Heke, one of the chiefs who had originally supported an agreement with the British, he felt betrayed and he decided to take a stance. He attacked the mighty symbol of the Brits by ordering his men to cut down the flagpole. The Brits were a bit annoyed, but they weren't overly concerned. They just built another flagpole and put the Union Jack up again. And again. And again with reinforcements and iron, and then one more time, because Hone Heke and his team cut it down 4 times. Eventually this sparked a bit more than annoyance, and war ensued. And this is how British redcoats came to respect Māori war strategy. And it's also why you'll see so many flags here today. Māori learnt the strength of that symbolism. And now we assemble for the Hikoi, so we're going to walk down the beach. In most protests you'll hear the English word march, but here we call it Hikoi, and it comes from a long tradition. Hikoi does literally translate to walk, step or march, but we all use it colloquially now to mean protest, thanks to one of our most famous hikoi, the 1975 Land March. Led by 79-year-old activist Whina Cooper, what started as a small group of 50 people from the north turned into 5,000 people who walked 1,100 kilometres all the way to our capital, Wellington City. That's 680 miles. They basically walked right across the North Island to Ika a Maui. It took them a month, and their slogan, "Not one more acre." They were protesting against land loss. Māori have been disadvantaged by a sequence of laws right throughout our history. As they marched, they collected signatures and they gathered the media behind them. And this huge media buzz helped them spread their message. Whina Cooper became a national treasure. She was recognised in both the British and New Zealand Royal Honours System, and by her own people, she was bestowed the title Te Whaia o Te Motu, Mother of the Nation. Okay, it wasn't an instant success, but the hikoi helped spark the Māori Renaissance. It led to the Waitangi Tribunal, which means several past claims can now be heard. So that's why most peaceful protests in New Zealand include a hikoi. We walk in unity, and we sing as we walk. Or we hum along if we don't know the words. No one's judging. Tu tira mai na iwi, tatou tatou e. And at the end, we congratulate each other for a job well done. Homai te paki paki. That's give us a clap in Te Reo. Followed by a sweet treat for the kids. So if you're travelling to New Zealand, please, by all means, go down to the beach, enjoy the sand, the surf, the sunshine. You might also see a gathering there and a community walking together. And hopefully you'll feel confident enough to join in. In the meantime, please hit subscribe and the notification bell and share this with others, particularly if you have an interest in the sand mining debate. I've left a link to the survey below so that you can have your voice too. I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about next week. Wherever it is, I hope you'll join me there. Until then, happy travels everyone.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now! We shall overcome. Hey, homai te paki paki.